What's good, y'all, and welcome to the first episode of the Chokecast podcast, hosted by yours truly, Haroon, aka Slump. And today I have a guest joining me for the first ever episode, and his name is Rashid Tyree. You can follow him on Twitter at rtyree22. And with that being said, we got a lot to discuss today surrounding the Lakers and Pelicans trade, any impacts that can come from that, as well as giving you guys our mock draft before the draft on Thursday. So with that being said, let's get into it. So Sheed, when the Lakers made this trade for Anthony Davis, agreeing to send Brandon Ingram, Lonzo, Hart, and 3 first-round picks, including the number 4 pick, what was going through in your head?
The first thought was the fact that Anthony Davis was actually going to be pairing up with LeBron, and like how Rich Paul was really hinting at this and saying basically he was going to be a Laker. Like it just didn't seem like it was actually going to actually happen. But with happened, I think it really. My first thought was that the Lakers were set up to possibly win a championship next season, especially with the way the Warriors kind of crumbled there at the end. And then, like I started looking at the Pelicans and how what they got back in return for possibly the greatest player in their franchise's history. And like my first thought was like they got a really good return, and I didn't really think the Lakers should have gave up Lonzo Ball, but I think he's a great building block, and I can't wait to really see how him and Zion end up working out together. And I also think it was actually good for the Lakers young guys because it seemed like they really struggled towards the end of the year with the whole trade rumors and all that surrounding them and being on LeBron's team. So I think with the Pelicans now, there'll be a lot less pressure, and I think they'll be able to succeed a lot more.
Yeah, with the Pelicans, I think they definitely got a great haul in that they were able to net 2 really good young talents. Yeah, I mean, the concern with Brandon Ingram is he's going to be a free agent real soon. And will New Orleans actually fork up the money to retain him? Or would it be best for them to actually go out and try and flip him with the number 4 pick for a star like Bradley Beal? I mean, Bradley Beal is far from old. I believe right now he's 26. His contract is more than reasonable. It's pretty lengthy as in terms of looking at the other available talents in the league. So I think going that route might be their best bet. But in reality, looking at the Lakers, I'm devastated, okay? As a Clipper fan, I thought that maybe next year would finally be our year of actually being looked at as a legitimate contender. We already know about the falters of Lob City. I thought maybe we'd be able to net Kawhi and pair him up with another star, especially with, like you mentioned, the downfall of the Warriors literally happening right in front of our eyes this
Definitely.
past week. Looking at the Lakers, yes, you can look at the roster and say, well, it's bleak. They only have 3 real pieces on that team with Braun, obviously, Anthony Davis, and Kuzma. But still, they'll still have some money to play with. We've seen the reports about, how the cap would be affected if this trade were to go down, on June 30th, July 6th, or even July 30th. And one thing has to be, like, hammered away here, okay? If the Lakers gets a guy like Kawhi Leonard, like Kyrie Irving in that meeting, and they promise him they'll give him that full max contract, I think they'll just wait for the entire 30-day period to sign, okay? Like, I understand, but
make more sense, definitely.
yeah, but would the big question here amongst other Laker fans, is would it be best to actually just use that cap space to fill out the talents surround LeBron James and Anthony Davis with some role-playing talent? Or would it be best just to go get a third star and then have a bunch of bottom feeders on the bench? What would you say about that?
In my opinion, I think what they should do is like definitely try to get in on the sweepstakes of Kawhi, Kyrie, and Jimmy Butler. I think those should be their top 3 targets because I think those 3 will fit really well around LeBron and AD. But if they can't get in on those 3, there's been a lot of reports about them being interested in Kemba Walker, and I'm just not really sure how he quite fits with them because, as you know, LeBron is like really ball dominant, but I mean, rightfully so, considering he takes pretty good care of the ball. He's probably still the best player in the world. So I think they should definitely target those three, and then the guys like the second tier guys like Kemba Walker, for example. Like I said, I don't think they should be very pressed to go after them. And if they can't get one of those top three, I say they fill out the rest of the roster with, like you said, valuable role players and like guys that know how to get the job done.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point you made there. Jimmy Butler is pretty much in love with the Lakers, as it seems. I mean, he's been liking Anthony Davis, Laker jersey swaps,
Yeah.
and LeBron has been recruiting him heavily. So I think he may definitely wait the 30-day period and actually sign with them. I mean, he's one of the guys I see in love with the Lakers. I don't think Kyrie's going. I think Kyrie to Brooklyn is a done deal and that he wants to stay home. I know a lot of people are trying to flip this to, wow, he wants to play with Anthony Davis. But just look at the man's Instagram. But just look at his Instagram feed, man. He's talking about home. He's out here trying to go home, okay? So, yeah,
Actually, there was I seen something today. I'm not really sure how truthful it is, but there was a report I seen that he's buying a house in the New York area. So you can only assume what that possibly means.
Yep, and the fact that he signed with Rock Nation, I mean, it's pretty much set in stone that Kyrie will be a Brooklyn Net by the beginning of next season, especially since, when you look at the LeBron factor with Kyrie, people still refer to him as a father figure. Like, why? I don't think Kyrie would do himself dirty like that by going to the Lakers. But with Kemba Walker, I definitely don't think they should even pursue him. And even if they do, I think he's just going to use them as leverage to get that Supermax contract from Jordan. Because we know the last thing Jordan wants is LeBron to surpass his legacy. And if LeBron were to end up going on a three-peat with Kemba Walker, yeah, Jordan is going to be feeling something.
Jordan would look bad. But I also don't know, because it's just like, I'm not sure how truthful it is, but Kemba himself said that he'd be willing to take less to stay with New Orleans and help them build a contender around him. I don't know if that's just him trying to butter up the situation before free agency actually opens, but the fact that he even said that is a bit surprising to me.
It's moronic, to say the least. I mean, they can't afford another max contract, even if he were to sign a vet min deal right now.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think he's just trying to, trying to force Jordan's hand into giving him the Supermax contract that he honestly deserves. Okay, he took a salary cut on his last deal, and what did they do? Surround him with Nicholas Batum, who's making $8 million more than him.
Yeah, and you can basically make the argument that Dwight's been the best player around him, and he just got there. And this is Dwight, who's a shell of himself at this point. But
and they got rid of him.
There, exactly.
So, yeah, if I were Kemba Walker, I'd take the money. Screw the organization, honestly. But yeah, with the Raptors destroying the Warriors, I mean, it was just a lot of luck, honestly. But even then, the Raptors were a legitimate championship team.
Correct. Yeah.
I have you can't try and turn this on them like, oh, it's an asterisk championship, because it's not, okay? The Warriors were faced with some really bad luck, and they were also on the opposite side of that in 2015.
Opposite. You can make the case they're on the opposite side of that in almost all of their championships.
I won't go there, but, 2015 was something else. But, yeah, with that being said, I think the Lakers, regardless of what happens this offseason, whether they decide to fill out the roster with role players on solid deals or just go and add a Jimmy Butler or Kawhi Leonard, I think they're still going to be the favorites no matter what. I mean, unless Tobias Harris and Jimmy Butler were to go back to Philadelphia on max deals, I just don't see a team beating the Lakers for the championship this upcoming season.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. They should probably come into the next season as the favorite, with the way, the Warriors are probably coming into next year with two of their top three players down. And then, like you said, the Sixers, but I mean, if I had to choose, obviously I'm taking a LeBron James-led team over a Joel Embiid or, I guess, Jimmy Butler-led team, even if they return.
There's a lot at stake for certain general managers in this league, Elton Brand being one of them. He better get both those guys back, man. All those assets he gave up.
I think if they can get Tobias back, I think that's bigger than Jimmy a little bit, just because Tobias kind of fits with them better. It's just it all hinges on Embiid's health, and sometimes he's good, sometimes he's not. But when he's on the floor, he's probably the best big man in the league, other than Anthony Davis.
Definitely. With him, I think he has a lot of self-reflection to do this off season, and I think next season he'll be even better than he was years prior. So, I have a lot of hope for Joel Embiid. It's just Ben Simmons who I just can't stand at this given point in time. But with that being said, y'all, we're about to dive into our mock draft. A lot of things to look at this in this 2019 NBA draft. We all know that it's quote unquote top three heavy, but honestly, there might be a lot of hidden gems in the later picks. So with that being said, we're gonna rotate who picks who. So Sheed is going to take the odd picks, and I'll be taking the even picks. Because I'm trying to give you guys, I'm trying to give you Sheed the 13th pick to make your selection for the Miami Heat. But, honestly, there's a lot. This is probably the most unpredictable draft I've kind of scouted for in the past couple of years. So I'm really excited to see who falls where. Also, a lot of picks may be on the move, so look out for that. So Sheed, take us away with the number one pick in the 2019 NBA draft to New Orleans.
Well, for the New Orleans Pelicans, I think it's already set in stone. I mean, everybody pretty much knows it's a surefire pick, so I think they've got to go with Zion Williamson out of Duke.
Honestly, that was probably, set in stone the second New Orleans got that call.
Exactly.
Yeah, like there's no debate about it.
I think whoever got that first overall pick, I think Zion just is the surefire guy.
Yeah, I think any team would take Zion number one. Like, you just can't pass up on that potential. Number two, I got Ja Morant. The thing is, Memphis has been trying to put out rumors claiming that they're interested in RJ Barrett, that they don't really want Ja Morant. But honestly, that's just to drive up the price of Mike Conley. So yeah, I think Ja Morant and Zion 1-2 have always been 1-2 since like January. So that being said, Ja Morant is my second pick.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that point about them trying to drive up Mike Conley's price because, as you can see, there's been teams really interested in him, but I think the price will really ramp up as the draft approaches more. But with the third pick for the New York Knicks, I think you got to go with RJ Barrett. I mean, they call him Maple Mamba for a reason. He's ready for the moment, I think. Bring him to New York.
It's crazy, bro. Before the season, I was comparing RJ Barrett to DeMar DeRozan. He's legit DeMar DeRozan. That man freezes up at the end of each game. He goes into tunnel vision. He forgets about his teammates, just goes all in. Like, I like that for some guys. But for RJ Barrett, I think he has to kind of refine that and try to be more consistent as, his career progresses. But yeah, I think he's the third best guy in this draft, and I don't think it's close. I think with number 4 and beyond, there's a lot of ifs and buts. But for the top 3 guys, I think it's pretty obvious. RJ is definitely going to be a New York Knick by the end of Thursday night.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So number 4, this is where things get interesting, okay? Now, if it were the Lakers drafting with this pick, I'd easily go with Darius Garland, like without a doubt. I think he's also the 4th best guy in this draft.
Right, yeah.
But, with the Pelicans as it stands, unless, I just don't see them picking yet another guard. With the addition of Alonzo, they still got Drew Holiday. I think they'll try and get a wing, Jarrett Culver, honestly, with the number 4 pick. And the thing with Jarrett Culver is, in my opinion, he can go from anywhere from 4 to the 7th pick. Actually, the 8th pick. I've heard a lot of rumblings. Yeah, I've heard a lot of rumblings with the Chicago Bulls and who they're trying to pick. So, yeah, I think that with the way New Orleans Pelicans are set up, I think Jarrett Culver would be the most, would make the most sense in terms of what they're trying to do with the roster. So, yeah, Jarrett Culver goes number 4 to the New Orleans Pelicans, in my opinion.
Yep, I had Culver going forward in New Orleans as well. So, with that being said, at 5, with the Cleveland Cavaliers, I have them taking the defending national champion, DeAndre Hunter. And he'll go from one Cavalier team to another, and I think he'll probably have – I won't say right off the bat, but I think he can have a similar impact as a guy that can guard multiple positions, knock down shots, and I think he'll come in and help guys like Colin Sexton and give them another scoring option very quickly.
Yeah, I also have DeAndre Hunter slated in at 5 to Cleveland. I wish it was Cam Reddish, but man, I just don't see it with the way Cleveland's just been drafting recently.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
they're
also I think some teams are a little bit nervous of this core injury that Reddish has had recently, especially like after watching some of his workouts. Like, there's been teams that have kind of been a little bit shaky, and like he's just kind of falling on some boards. But I think that Reddish would be a fine pick here, but it's just he's got a bit more question marks than Hunter.
facts. So number 6, I have the Phoenix Suns taking their point guard. And this dude can slip, obviously, but no, my bad. I forgot, my bad. I got Darius Garland slotted into Phoenix at number 6.
Mm,
I was just looking at my previous mock draft, which included, the Lakers still picking Garland. But,
mm-hmm.
with this trade going down, I think Phoenix doesn't even have to worry about picking Kobe White. They go for the second best point guard in this draft in Darius Garland. I think Darius Garland has a shot to be better than John Morant. But, there's a lot of question marks surrounding his injury,
Possible. Yeah.
his size. He's not built as well as John Morant. He's not, as flashy, as athletic. But Darius Garland has a nice handle, has great playmaking ability, and I think he can shoot off ball and on ball. So I think he'd be the best pick for Phoenix. To pair him up with Devin Booker. That backcourt would be great. I want to see it happen. Hopefully, the Pelicans do pass on Darius Garland.
All right, so on to 7 with Chicago, right?
Yes.
All right. Here, actually, I think this is where our mock drafts finally start to take different paths, because I have the Suns taking Kobe White with that 6 overall pick, and then the Chicago Bulls, if they don't trade the pick, because there's been a lot of murmurs about it. But I think the Chicago Bulls will end up taking Darius Garland out of Vanderbilt because, like you said, his playmaking ability. And I think they really want like a guy that can run an offense at their point guard position there, especially because, like we spoke about in the past, they might go out and get a guy like Patrick Beverley in free agency. But I don't think Patrick Beverley is their future. I think he'll be kind of there to kind of just groom Garland and get him ready to go for when obviously Beverley either goes elsewhere or ends up moving on in some fashion. So I'm taking Garland. I think Kobe White will go to Phoenix because I think Phoenix is going to be looking. I feel like Phoenix is just like one of those teams that is just like they're really into like the flashy players nowadays. So I think like Kobe White is like a I guess you could say a very good scoring option because he was originally a 2, turned 1. So I think that him coming in and just showing his ability to score and just putting him and Devin Booker together in the backcourt would help their scoring punch. And I think Garland will end up falling to Chicago.
I'd hate to see that. I would definitely hate to see that. Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. But the thing is, the Bulls are going to wait until the draft to see who's available with their 7th pick before coming to an agreement, through trade.
Yeah.
If Darius Garland is available, I think the Bulls would jump at that. But we just got to wait and see. With number 8, the Atlanta Hawks. Now, I know you're probably going to be, shaking your head at this, but I got the Atlanta Hawks bypassing the selection of Cam Reddish with this 8th pick.
Oh, wow.
And taking the kid out of France, Sekou Doumbouya. Okay? I know what you're thinking. Who is this kid? Well, I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. He hasn't had much traction this past year. I mean, he's fallen significantly. I believe in 2018, he was projected to go top 4 in the 2019 NBA draft. But then after somewhat of a, quiet season, he slipped badly. I saw him going at 14 to the Boston Celtics for most of the part of this year. But now you're starting to see him rise and rise again. And that's because he's been dominating in his pre-draft workouts, in his pro day. Teams are starting to see the versatility and the talent this kid brings. In looking at the Toronto Raptors and the development of Pascal Siakam, I know a lot of teams are oozing and drooling over Sekou's potential. So, yeah, I got Sekou slotted at number 8 to Atlanta.
You make some very good points there, so I can't really argue with that. But like you said, it might be the obvious pick, but I have right there a little bit of a difference. I have Reddish going there. I just think with Trae Young, the spacing would just improve, especially with them getting rid of Taurean Prince. I think Cam Reddish slides in very well there. But with the number 9 pick, I have the Wizards taking Nasir Little out of UNC. And honestly, I have him going there just because, as you can see, like the Washington Wizards really haven't worked out many players in this upcoming draft. And today is Monday. The draft is Thursday. They haven't really worked out many players, but one of the select few they have worked out is Nasir Little. And I think they are pretty interested in him and just like his potential, because he's kind of like Dumboya with that. And it's just like he's kind of flown underneath the radar, and he's an athletic freak. And I think he can bring a lot of things to the table that the Wizards probably will need very soon, because I think someone in that backcourt is going soon.
Yeah, I like Nasir Little a lot. And like you said, they've only worked out a handful of top-tier prospects. One of those guys is Kobe White. Look out for him even going to number four if, Beal goes to New Orleans. Yeah, at number 10, Atlanta is up again, thanks to the, Dallas Mavericks. I got them taking Jackson Hayes, okay? The big man.
I like that.
Yeah, like for right now, I think they've already gotten some solid wing players if they do take Sekou, and they already have, Kevin Huerter. Trae Young might need a high and flashy big man who can actually go up and put it down, just like John Collins. But this team offers a lot more rim protection, and I think that he would be a perfect pairing with John Collins. So, yeah, I got them taking Jackson Hayes at number 10.
Yep, I can't argue with that. With 11, the Minnesota Timberwolves are up. I have them actually taking Sekou Doumbouya here, which is kind of like it might be a bit redundant having him and Wiggins out there on the wings, but I mean, I'm not going to lie. I'm a pretty big Andrew Wiggins fan, and I think he's going to eventually get it together, especially with Jimmy Butler gone. I think he's going to be able to focus in and not really have to worry too much. So I think bringing in a guy like Doumbouya would also help too, because it'll hopefully push Wiggins to be better. And then I think their eventual plan would be to let Robert Covington go in some fashion, and they can build a core of Doumbouya, Wiggins, and Cat. But we'll have to see how it goes.
But since I picked Doumbouya to Atlanta, you're going to have to change your selection, There's a guy available who has a lot of similarities to Andrew Wiggins. It's just not Sekou. It's still available. So, yeah, I think you're probably going to go and pick him. Am I right?
I'm not sure. I mean, if they're not going Doumbouya, I feel like they're definitely going to go a wing player.
You don't think they'll take him?
I'm not sure. I don't think they would go that route.
All right. So who do you got them taking?
I'm assuming. I mean, that's tough. You kind of put me on the spot here, but I think if they can't go Doumbouya here, I think they might go with another wing player, like possibly either Kevin Porter Jr. or Keldon Johnson. But I really think that the Doumbouya pick would be ideal.
Yeah, I actually do like Keldon Johnson a lot. The thing is, like, I don't think a lot of other teams are, high on him. I've seen his stock like rise, drop. Right now, it's looking like he's rising. I just don't know where these rumblings are coming from. So maybe Minnesota actually does take him.
Who'd you have in mind?
Who do I had them taking Cam, but it's all good. It's all good.
Right, Cam. Yeah, I don't think Cam gets past that 8 spot though. Right. I really don't.
I feel it. But still, he has to come off the board sometime, so you're going to have to slide him in, or I'll slide him in now at number 12.
Slide him in at 12 then, I think. Yeah.
I got the Charlotte Hornets taking Cam Reddish. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. He's the most flashy guy left on this list. And even with all his concerns, I think the Hornets might need to look at drafting a superstar, and he's one of the few guys outside of the top 10 that actually possess it. So, I got them taking Cam Reddish. Regardless of his inconsistencies as a shooter, he has the form, he has the handles. You may be looking at the next Paul George.
That's pretty high praise, but I mean,
I said may.
May. You're right. But I mean, you can't go wrong, like you said. I mean, Reddish is one of the guys that like that might actually fall, like you said, that has like that superstar potential. And some of these players, like they outside of the top three, you can't. It's like hit or miss. So with that though, like 13, my Miami Heat, as some of you know that are listening, I'm a big Miami Heat fan. But so what I'm hoping for is that we Kevin Porter Jr. out of USC falls into our lap because we really need a wing player that can just fill it up because as you can see, like the wing players we've gotten in the past, like Justice Winslow and Josh Richardson, like they're really defensive minded, and Winslow's really turning into like our point guard of the future. It may sound a little crazy, but he's done pretty well in that role. So I think bringing in a guy like Kevin Porter Jr. who can just give us a bucket when we need it, I think would really help because we're definitely going to miss that with the retirement of the legend Dwayne Wade.
Yeah, the thing with Kevin Porter is I do see him slipping, so he will most definitely be available for the Miami Heat selection. It's just up to Pat Riley, to be honest. But yeah, like you mentioned, he's a really good shot creator. A lot of people don't realize that. But
Yep.
Kevin Porter is not a 3-and-D like prospect. He's not a 3-and-D wing. He can actually handle the ball really well. He can shoot. He can defend. I think he'd be a really great fit. There's a lot of character concerns with him. But yeah, as it stands, Kevin Porter Jr. is definitely a high-value talent, in my opinion. So with number 4, we got the Boston Celtics. I know you probably don't agree with this pick, but I got them taking Nickeil Alexander. And a lot of people may be looking at this selection like, why? He's not mocked anywhere in the lottery.
Right.
But the thing is, a lot of people saw what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was able to do, and now being his cousin really plays a similar type of style of basketball. I mean, they've been trained together. They literally, like when I watch I see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And I think based on that, Danny Ainge, and with the absence of Kyrie, because like I said, Kyrie's definitely gone earlier in this podcast. I think they need a point guard. And this guy can definitely be their point guard of the future.
Yeah, I mean, those are all very fair points. And I have him actually a little bit later in this first round, but I think 14 is a solid spot for him. At 15 with the Detroit Pistons, I actually have them taking Keldon Johnson in this pick. And like how I mentioned earlier with where Minnesota might go with it, I think if they don't go that route, and like you said, they go with like a Reddish or something in that range, I think Keldon Johnson for Detroit would work very well because he's just a guy that can like score pretty well. And I think when they're building an offense around a guy like Blake Griffin who's going to have the ball in his hands a lot, you need guys that can score because clearly, I mean, Reggie Jackson and the other guys in Detroit's backcourt haven't really gotten the job done. As you've seen, they made the playoffs, but I don't think they can really become a contender without some real scoring punch back there.
Yes, sir. The thing with Detroit is they just have to take the best player available in this draft, and I think Keldon Johnson is definitely up there for the best available. I feel bad for Blake. He's rotting away. They can't do nothing to save it, man. It's just a really bad spot to be in if you're a star or superstar player. And Blake is going to, tough. With Orlando, I actually hope that, Nickeil is available at this selection. But the chances of that are unlikely, seeing as I really think that the Boston Celtics will take Nickeil at the 14th spot. So I got Orlando taking a guard, and a guard who was extremely valuable coming out of high school, Romeo Langford, okay?
I like that.
Yeah. Romeo has been falling and falling and falling. Like, at the beginning of the season, he looked very, very promising as a prospect coming out of Indiana. But with his wrist, his inability to shoot effectively, he just came crumbling down. Hopefully he can go to Orlando and be the anti-Markelle Fultz and get everything together the second he steps into the league. So, yeah, I got Romeo going to Orlando at 16.
I like that pick a lot. I actually have the same pick there for them. I think that would work very well. So with 17, Atlanta's up again. I don't think they end up keeping this pick. I think they're going to end up packaging some of these picks to move up in some fashion because I don't think there's any way they keep all of these picks. I think they're definitely going to trade this pick or the 10th pick. They're definitely going to trade one of those picks and try to package it to get a higher selection. But, I mean, if they some way somehow do end up picking here, I think they're going to go with probably a wing player or just another shooter just to continue to build around Trae Young and just give him spacing. So they might go like with the Tyler Harrow pick here. It's not ideal, I think, but I think it's just a player that you can kind of slot in there because I was going to say they could go big, but if they take Hayes, then I don't think they need that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I think they're going to take a wing player and then a big man, regardless of which pick they swap, whether it being 10 or 17. I do see them. I truly do think they'll get rid of one of their picks in this draft. I mean, 3 picks is a lot, man. I'll just
Yeah.
package one of them and get like a future pick or a future asset. So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I honestly just slotted a random player that was high on my
Yeah,
board.
that's what I'm saying. I just kind of said a name because it's just like I don't see there's any way in hell they keep that selection.
At 18, I got the Indiana Pacers selecting Nicholas Claxton, and a lot of you guys may be wondering, why another big man? Well, I see them getting rid of Domantas Sabonis this offseason. Seeing as they paid Miles Turner that hefty contract, I can't see them paying another big. I got the Indiana Pacers just going the cheap route and picking up Nicholas Claxton while flipping Sabonis for future picks.
I would say, I mean, I don't want to say it's a hot take, but I think it was a pretty warm take just because I think they did a lot of preaching about Sabonis and Oladipo's relationship and what it brought to changing Indiana's fortunes after the Paul George trade. But I mean, a lot of GMs do a lot of talking, so it could just be smokescreen and they could end up getting rid of them. So I wouldn't put anything past the Pacers at this point, especially because they're fishing for a way to contend in the East and try to grab a top tier spot and take control of the conference with the way the Raptors kind of did this year. And we don't know what Kawhi's going to do still. So, yeah, I think it could be open and they could just try to make a run in some fashion. But on to the number 19th pick. Speaking of teams trying to make a run and get back into the thick of things, I have the San Antonio Spurs here. I have been taking Ryu Hachimura from Gonzaga here. I just feel like he's just such a San Antonio pick. He's just like the typical player they would take here is like a guy that comes off as kind of like a project, but can really like turn into something really, really good. And I think it's someone they'll be end up willing to take a chance on because they've got to build around someone. And I don't know if DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge are still going to be that for very long.
I just realized that I'm an idiot and flip 18 with 20, and I mock Brandon Clark to Indiana and give Nicholas Claxton to the Boston Celtics. Because as we know right now, there's a lot of talk about, Horford potentially, getting out of his contract, declining his player option, and becoming a free agent. And I think they'll need some backup security if that is indeed the case. So I do think they'll take Nicholas Claxton. And with their next pick, low floor, high ceiling type of guy. But yeah, I got the Boston Celtics at 20, taking Nicholas Claxton.
Not a bad selection at all there, I think, honestly. But quick side note, you don't think Al Horford may be opting out to possibly take less to help Boston?
Why would he do that?
I mean, he's hinted at it before, so why wouldn't he do it now?
Because he is now realizing just how much turmoil that organization brings. He is not going to take less just to be flipped for a first-round pick next season. He's too wise for that.
We'll have to wait and see. We'll see, though. With 21 here, the Oklahoma City Thunder up, and I think as we all know, they are thirsting for some shooting because they need to space the floor around Westbrook and Paul George and find a way to get the hell out of the first round. Excuse my language, but they've just been utter disappointment with that. So here, since I have Tyler Harrow going earlier as just a fill-in for the Atlanta pick at 17, I think if he's not there, I think they go with a guy like Ty Jerome out of UVA just because he's a very good playmaker and ball handler first, but he can also knock down the three and shoot very well. And I think they just kind of need that. And even so, they need to find a way to produce offense when Russell Westbrook is not in the game because when Paul George is in, they still get the job done. But I think having another playmaking guy back there to back up Russell Westbrook could take some of the pressure off of him.
Yeah, I have no complaints there. I do think Tyler Harrow would be the ideal pick for Oklahoma City, but yeah, he may go earlier than they expect. With 22, I got the Boston Celtics taking a flyer and selecting Bol Bol. A lot of question marks. His frame is really suspect. There's a lot of reasonable concern and doubt about, the longevity of his career. As it stands, they have a lot of picks in this draft, so why not just take a flyer on Bobo and deal with the risks later, especially at 22. Like, it's either you get a star or it's whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Still got 2 picks.
He's worth it. He's worth it at 22 to take that chance, definitely. With 23, the Utah Jazz are up here. I think they're going to end up going with a guy like Eric Pascal out of Villanova, because he's a guy that can really stretch the floor at the 4, and I think they kind of need that, and they need some source of scoring outside of Donovan Mitchell because he gets stuck in a lot of situations where he has to hoist up shots, and it makes him look bad and it makes the team look bad, and they just all around struggle. And I think adding another shooter onto that team would help tremendously, especially with the fact that guys like Derek Favors have been thrown around in all these trade rumors. So I think just adding another big man, but a big man that can shoot, is very important for the Utah Jazz this summer.
I agree. They do need to get some scoring in this draft. I don't care where it comes from, but they definitely need to get this man Donovan Mitchell some help, because in the playoffs, man, Joe Ingles is just outside of when he's getting guarded by Paul George, he's just not been it. And with the concerns of Ricky Rubio leaving, I think the best bet for Utah is to actually get a floor spacing 4 and then pick up one of the point guards in this free agency class. Hopefully they can try and make a run at Kemba Walker, or even, just try and get Mike Conley if all else fails. But there's a lot to work on for the Utah Jazz this offseason. So at number 24, I have the Philadelphia 76ers taking Matisse Thybulle out of Washington. The thing with Matisse is, I would expect him to be a second-round pick if he were still doing, pre-draft workouts and all of that. But the man has just been laying low, chilling. He got a first-round promise at the draft combine. So I think he's going to go either to Philadelphia or OKC. One of these teams who needs a lockdown defending wing with potential to actually become a shooter later on. But he's definitely worth the pick at 24 for the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, especially if they end up losing a guy like Jimmy Butler in free agency. They're going to need to bring another defensive player in. I think if he can figure out his shooting woes, I think he's a great pick there. But at 25, the Portland Trailblazers, and here I think they're going to go with the Georgian big man, Goga Batadze, I believe is how you pronounce it. And but I think they're going to go with this pick here just because he's kind of a big man that I feel like he can rebound really well, and he can give him a little bit of scoring, especially with the fact that I don't think they're going to keep Cantor after his contract runs out. So I think they've seen some success with Cantor there, but they don't necessarily want to, I guess, pay him that amount. So I think a guy like Goga coming in would help them in a couple years or so to kind of fill in that role.
Yeah, for Portland, that pick would definitely make sense since Goga does have a lot of potential. For the most part, I would love to see them take a flyer on this man, Darius Bazley. He took the year off, but he has a lot of potential as a versatile wing player. And they definitely need some wing players who have a lot of potential. So I think that'd be the dream pairing. But, I don't think they'll make that selection since, what they're doing up there in Portland doesn't make a lot of sense to me with the moves they make. I'd be fine with Goga there, though. So at number 26 for Cleveland, now I got them taking this man, KZ Okpala, out of Stanford.
I like that.
The Cleveland Cavaliers, I don't think they'll be on the up and up anytime soon. But they'll still have a young and fun team if they were to take DeAndre Hunter and KZ. I think the defense would be out of this world with the ability to just space the floor for this man, Colin Sexton, let him drive and dish. I think that'd be a really fun team. But, no, I don't think they'll compete at all next season. It'll take a couple of years even then. It's looking bad for them right now.
All right, so moving on to pick number 27 with the Brooklyn Nets. I have him taking Chuma Okeke out of Auburn, and I think he's a player like one of a maybe a top tier, not maybe top tier, but like he's a very good player in this draft. And I think he's going to fall because of that injury he suffered in the tournament. But I think as we've seen also in that tournament before that, he was really capable of taking over games and just he really helped them in that UNC game before he went out with that injury. And I think he really showed like how his game would translate on the level against NBA level talent that UNC obviously brings in. So I think he's a good pick there for Brooklyn, especially if they get a guy like Kyrie Irving, because they're going to need to fill in that roster with people that can kind of do it all. And I think Okeke has the potential to be one of those kind of players.
Great pick there at number 28. Oh, but I'm just laughing because you're forgetting about your boy Bruno Fernando this entire draft. I do respect it though, bro. That
I have him falling. He's coming soon.
But at 28 with the Golden State Warriors, I have them taking their eventual successor to Draymond Green, Mfiondu Kabengele. I believe that's how you pronounce his name, out of Florida
State, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like these African names, bro. I may be African, but not able to do it. But I think he's definitely going to be able I think he's going to be a first-round pick regardless of who he goes to. But I think him to Golden State would be a fantastic pick, especially with the fact that Kevon Looney may be on the way out. I think even if they don't opt to trade Draymond, I think that he'd be a great pick and great rotational piece for them. So, yeah, I got him slotted at number 28 to Golden State.
Not a bad pick at all. I think that'd probably be a great fit. And like you said, just right on time, you brought up Bruno Fernando. I think the San Antonio Spurs at 29 will not necessarily take a chance on him, but I think he's just kind of like another prototypical guy that I think the Spurs would love to bring in and kind of build up, because there have been like a little concerns about like him, I guess necessarily like his focus and things like that. And like he kind of has like the Draymond Green effect where it's like, can he contain himself and keep himself composed? And I think bringing him into a place like San Antonio would help him with that tremendously, as around that organization and the player. And I think a lot of his upside can be maximized under Greg Popovich.
Yeah, he definitely has starter potential, but as it stands, I have him slipping based on the fact that I think he'll just be a rotational big man in this league. But yeah, I definitely do think he'd be a perfect fit for San Antonio, especially at 29. No issues there for me. But at 30, the Milwaukee Bucks, there's a lot to do this offseason. A lot of money to throw out at their guys and try to get rid of the other guys. George Hill is definitely on the way out, so they can, try and pay this man Chris Middleton his money. Same thing with retaining a lot of the other key players. Brook Lopez might have to come back, and he's definitely going to request more money this offseason. So that's going to be an issue. So, yeah, as it stands right now, I got them taking the sharpshooter out of Oregon, Louis King.
Ooh, I have been taking a shooter too.
Who?
Just not him. I have been taking Cameron Johnson out of UNC. I like his length, and the Bucks are infatuated with lengthy players. So I think that's why to me he kind of fits, and the fact, like you said, a shooter.
Yeah, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. So yeah, guys, that wraps up the Chokecast podcast hosted by Haroon. And thank you, a big shout out to this man Sheed for coming on today onto the show and helping me wrap up this mock draft. You can find him on Twitter at rtyree22. So make sure to show him some love on there. And with that being said, guys, have a good one. Peace out.